And we are recording on Thursday, September 21st, 2023 at 12:10 p.m. Eastern time with the one and only Dr. Dale Comstock, one of the OG guests on this show, who doesn't need to be introduced. You guys know him, youngest ever member of Delta Force, OGA, Black Belt, Black Ops, the K9 training, and as he just told me before this show, looks like some other endeavors are coming to fruition. In the description, you can find his Instagram, well, his RIP Twitter, which I think you should try to get back, but whatever. And then tier one coaching, speaking, all that good shit. You can go to his website. You can go grab his book, American Badass. More books are in the works. And today we're going to talk about the raid on Malik Marin. I'm gonna post a live link. Dale, take it away.
All right, cool, man. Well, hello everybody, and it's me again. I'm not gonna go through my background. I think everybody knows who I am. Hopefully, there's a lot more new people on here for your sake, Tommy.
No, there are. It's growing leaps and bounds.
Yeah. Okay. So it's because I know we got a short session, so I'm not gonna go too much into my background, other than Tommy indicated. So first of all, I'm in Bali right now. I have a home here, a business here, and I live in Bali, Indonesia. I also live in Manila. I have a home there, and I do business here, and I have a home in Florida, Panama City Beach. And so I kind of live out of a suitcase, but I have 3 homes, 3 families, 3 countries. I'm a former Delta Force operator, Green Beret. I worked for OGA as a mercenary as well. I've owned several companies. I've got a PhD in alternative medicine, natural health, with a master's degree in business, organizational security management. I speak a couple of different languages, blah, 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 blah. All right, now you know a little bit about me, right? So I'm in a hurry, man. Dude, I've been talking all day.
I got you, dude.
I've been in business meetings all day. I've been coaching calls all day. I do a lot of performance coaching for those of you guys who are wondering what the hell I'm talking about. And I say coaching, I'm not talking about, fitness. I'm talking about online life coaching, helping people be the best version of themselves. And I share a lot of my experience with people to do that. I've been on the show quite a few times with Tommy, and there seems to be an interest in some of the stories I have to tell. I got a lot more stories coming. And I'm making a lot more stories too. It's amazing my whole life. And just when I thought, I'm 60 years old, I thought I was in my twilight years and it was time to retire. Man, my life is just getting started, man. I'm just engaged in so many things, and not because I'm looking for them. I just kind of fall into this crap, and I've got to, I got to deal with it. And by the way, I got to adjust my pictures here.
Oh, you're good. Oh, it is. Yeah.
That's gonna drive me crazy. Anyways, whatever. All right. So story. So in the title we talked about, or you mentioned the raid on Malik Marin. So what does that mean? Raid on Malik Marin. So I'm referring to Afghanistan right now. So in Afghanistan during the war, there was actually a shadow government, right? And there are a lot of shadow governments, and I'm going to tell you right now, in the United States, there's a shadow government, but we won't get into that part right now. But in Afghanistan, there was a shadow government. There was the official government, and then there was actually another government that was actually running everything, and that was the bad guys running it. And so there was one target. He was the chief of police in his entire district, the whole area. Actually, he was more like a governor, but he was also chief of police, and he was kind of managing and manipulating everything. Right? He was Taliban. And but he appeared to be the good guy, I'm government official. I'm in charge of the police. We're here to support America, global war on terrorism, blah blah blah. Now he lived on the east side of the Kunar River. So if you look at the map, the Kunar River runs north to south from on the Pakistani-Afghan border, right on the border, literally. And so there's not many crossing points in Afghanistan to get across the Kunar River, right? And sometimes there's just little trestle bridges, like really some shaky stuff. I mean, like really shaking. You don't want to drive vehicles. Some of them you can drive a vehicle on it, but honestly, I would never drive over those things with a vehicle. A cable breaks, you're done. You do not want to fall in the Kunar River. It's one of the most dangerous rivers in the world. I think on average, about 17 people a year drown in the Kunar River. Very fast moving rapids, lots of big rocks under there. So a lot of, turbulence, and it's a very dangerous river. And so there's only a few crossing points along the entire river, north to south, to get from the west side to the east side. Well, Malik Marin was the bad guy. We wanted this guy, and he lived on the east side of the river. We were stationed on the west side of the river. And anytime we crossed the river, And if you were Americans or Afghan National Army or something like that, the checkpoint guards or the bridge crossing guards, which is police, they, as soon as you crossed over, they got on the phone and they called him and said, hey, you got people crossing the bridge, bad guys, Americans or whatever. They're coming across the bridge, stand by. And he lived. So if you cross the bridge and you you make a left turn and go north up along parallel the river, maybe about 500 meters, maybe about a kilometer up. Then you make a right turn and you go into a valley, right? And he had his compound inside this valley, small little village, but his compound was nestled inside this thing. So the police on the bridge were giving him early warning, and he was afraid he's going to get rolled up and get attacked. So if they called and the vehicles turned north, he'd bug out, get out of town, right? So he's very hard to catch. But we wanted this guy, and we knew that his cops were helping him out. So I devised a plan one day. I said, okay, you know what? I got an idea. How are we going to get to this guy? We're going to trick him. And so there was a special forces team that was also on the east side of the bridge on the south, going south down the river. And there's just one ODA, 12-man special forces team, Green Beret team. And they were hunkered down in a little compound. They were getting constant firefights because they were literally facing the Pakistani mountains range, and they were taking plunging fires. They were constantly getting it on. All right. And so what I decided to do is I'm going to take my guys, and we had about roughly 20 vehicles, Hilux trucks, pickup trucks. And I brought roughly 60 pipe fitters with me, right? Afghans. I had two other Americans with me. And so what we did is we crossed the bridge. We knew they called ahead, warned him, this was broad daylight. And so I intentionally did that. Say, hey, how's it going, guys? Look at us. We're coming across the bridge. And we made a right-hand turn and went south. And we went south for a couple of miles. And then we stopped and we set up what's called a VCP, a vehicle checkpoint. And so basically I put the vehicles in a large perimeter, and I stationed a couple of vehicles and personnel on the road. It's a dirt road. Okay. And any vehicles coming through it, we'd stop it, inspect the vehicle. Let me see your identification. Who are you? It was just a fake VCP. We just did that on purpose, and we stayed there all day, right? We spread out, and I had all the guys spread out very far around the vehicles. So it's hard to get a head count and see everybody, other than the guys who were actually on the road stopping the vehicles. And we intentionally presented ourselves, right? We wanted the world to see we're there. Look, we're doing a VCP. We're doing a VCP. We're not going after Malik Moran. We're not doing nothing bad, right? And so, and we did this during the day. And so we knew at some point, oh yeah, it's just a VCP. They're not come after me. He'd come back home, which is exactly what he did. So as it got dark, what I did then was I collapsed the perimeter. I brought all the vehicles in nice and tight. Okay, on this, we maintained the VCP, still checking vehicles. And then what I did was I basically chopped part of the element. All right, so I left maybe 10 guys at the VCP, right? And still had perimeter, still around their vehicles and stuff, a little bit tighter though. And I took the rest of the force, and we literally traveled due east in the darkness. Nobody saw us moving. We due east through the desert, and then we did a left-hand turn, went north, and we went up the backside of the mountain. And we climbed this other back of the mountain and got to the top of the mountain. Now we're looking into the valley where his compound is. We're looking down at his compound. Okay. And we basically went down to the military crest, about maybe 2/3 of the way down. And we set up on a ridge line, and we just stopped. We got in a security position. We laid out, because we had a 8-hour hit time, if you will. I believe it was circa around 2 a.m. in the morning. And what we were going to wait on is two things were going to happen. We had a Marine Corps element that was going to support us. They were going to come around from the north mountain, and they were actually going to fly in and land on the north side of the North Ridge, and walk up the mountain and come to the top. And then they were going to secure the top mountain in case he tried to run out of the compound, go up the mountain the other side and flee. They would basically have him trapped up there. And then the other thing that was going to happen on that 8-hour, we were going to have that special forces team I mentioned. They were going to come up, and they were going to go to that bridge, and they're literally going to put guns on every cop there before they get on the phone, and arrest them all, lock them all up, take their phones from them so they couldn't make a phone call, because they were used to those guys driving across the bridge. Yeah. So these guys are just going west across the bridge, not going to do nothing. But actually, they went west across the bridge, stopped on the bridge, go, hey, fellows, come here.
Yeah.
don't touch the phone, right? And
Yeah.
rolled them up. So now there was no early warning comms to it either. And so they rolled those guys up. And then I had another element come across the bridge at the same time to the mouth of that opening, right? The draw that he was in, the valley, so to speak. So we basically had a blocking force that blocked his ability to flee out down towards the river. We had a blocking force, the Marine Corps on the top, so they couldn't go over the top. And we were on this side of the ridge, on the south side. We had him basically enveloped. So he was in the bowl. He couldn't get out, right? He was a pretty cagey guy. And so once we had all that in place, now what happened was we ended up executing without the Marine Corps because they had a guy break his femur on infiltration. So now they had a medevac situation, which kind of impeded their movement. So we're like, okay, chances are he's probably not going to make it out. We're going to go ahead and surround him long before he can get out anyway. So it was not that important. But what was important was cutting off the early warning system with the police, and 2, having a blocking position at the mouth of the valley where he could actually get out in a car or by foot, and disappear again. So I remember we were laying up on top of the hill and we were snoozing for quite a while. We had security out and we're waiting, and finally it was okay. It's about that time, and time for execution. We knew that the special forces team was getting ready to go to the positions as well on the bridge, and that the rest of the element would come across the bridge, right? So everybody was staged in the right place. My element, we were all on foot. What we did is we slowly went down the hill, the mountain. We came around the outside of the compound. They were already asleep because we're watching, looking down into the compound. We could see it because there's no more activity. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. We're making sure they're nice and tired. And then we went in and we basically set up on the door. Now, something funny kind of happened. It's kind of funny, kind of embarrassing. I'm going to tell on myself. But so I was going to breach the door. It's a big wooden door, massive one. It's big enough you can drive a car through it, right? It was a big gate. But then there was a smaller door that you could open just to walk in and out of, right? So it's a big door with a little door to go in and out. And so what I wasn't going to breach the entire door. I just wanted to breach the small human entry door. So I don't know what to call it, right? Just a regular standard door. And I had it charged. Now, remember, we didn't have I was missing basically the ability to tie into my det cord. Okay, so I had to tie it off with a square knot. Okay, normally we have these things that they were called green devils, red devils, different colors, but it's a connector is what it does. It connects my firing system to the explosive charge, right? You never put the two together until you're ready to use it. And so I decided, okay, I'm the element leader for this whole thing. I'm going to go ahead and take point. I'm going to run up, go to the door, connect the system, put it on the door. I'm going to breach the door, open it up so my assault force can go in. Well, I'll be damned. When it's time to do it, I run up to the door. I try to tie a square knot in the middle of the night, right? And I thought I tied it pretty tight. Well, it's det cord. It's pretty rigid. It kind of came unfolded, and it fell off. It disconnected, right? So the charge fell off. The cap went off, so he got a little bit of bang to it, but it didn't breach the door. But the first guy in the assault element, he thought I blew the door anyway, so he kicked it so hard he kicked the door in. He didn't even need an explosive charge. So it was transparent to everybody else, but I knew what exactly happened.
Yeah.
So I just revealed one of my close guarded secrets, one of my faux pas. But it was an equipment malfunction. And so I remember we entered, and we raided the place of what we did, and it's kind of funny, when the military trains for close quarter battle, right? Going into a building or a house or a room, right? There's certain procedures you follow, right? It's like a football team, you deploy a certain way so that you dominate the room and eliminate the threat, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and we were doing that as well. So I remember going in with them and busting into one room, like the main house, and where we thought he was. And when you practice CQB, normally what you don't expect, you expect furniture, a little bit of here, furniture there, tables, this and that, you got to either jump over it or negotiate that to get to your points of domination, and control the room. Well, but what you don't ever expect is when you go into a room, there's a cow standing there, or some goats, or some sheep in the living room, right? Or a guy laying in the bed with his chicken, right?
Yeah.
Literally sleeping with the chicken, and I've seen all that. A guy literally laying in bed with his chicken, and he's like, "Hey, can I get some sleep here? Me and my chicken, and he didn't even get up. He's petting the chicken. We run into another room, and there's a couple of teenagers in there having sex, and it's just, the bizarrest thing you ever see. It wasn't just that at Target either. I've been in other Targets where literally we blew the door into the main living room. We entered, and right across the living room was a master bedroom, and the door was closed. I remember in this particular case, we wanted this guy really bad. He had killed a lot of Americans. He was, setting up IEDs. This was not in Baghdad. And we bust into the bedroom door, kicked the door open. I mean, he heard the first charge go. It was a loud charge when I blew the living room door. I mean, it rocked the house, right? So he had plenty of time to react. We run in, clear the living room, kick the bedroom door, and go in. I'm the first guy that goes in there, and this guy's on top of a woman having sex, right? And he's like, he's laying down, looking on top of her. He looks at me, he's like, hey, man, come on. Like, hey, and I'm like, the guy didn't even get out of bed. He's still getting it, right? And I'm like,
probably best case scenario. You want someone super distracted.
Well, yeah, he was. Well, not only that was he wasn't really distracted at this point. He was just like disrespecting me, And I, I freaking put my muzzle in his forehead, like, and he finally fell off of her. She got up butt naked and tried to cover up, and we slapped him around and shit. And he had guns and money and shit laying everywhere. But man, he got caught in the moment, right? Like literally. And but you see that all the time, which is the funny part of doing CQB and doing raids. You run across some weird stuff like animals in the house, cows, sheep, goats, chickens, and this was no different on this particular raid. And in fact, it was teenagers, a boy and a girl in there, getting it on. And they didn't even get up. That's the weirdest part, right? It's like, hey, a little respect, get up,
act scared.
Yeah, right. And so we ended up getting Malik Marin, and we caught him completely off guard. He had no idea we're coming, right? The look on his face was priceless. And we rolled him up. Finally, we did what's called SSC, sensitive site exploitation, right? We go through everything. We're looking for guns, explosives, money, intelligence, anything in the compound that's of use, right? We've already got this guy handcuffed and, and stripped and searched and stuff, loaded on the back of the pickup trucks. And I remember when we pulled off the target, we stopped about 300 yards away for a minute. The sun was coming up now, which is kind of the witching hour. You don't want to be on target or outside your compound when it starts getting light, because now it basically levels the playing field. At night, we have the tactical advantage because we've got night vision devices. We can see in the night, we can operate in the night. And but when the sun comes up, kind of levels things off. Right now, we are more susceptible to a counterattack. And but I remember we stopped the vehicles for a second, and you could hear all the women in the compound. We didn't take everybody out. Like, we left all the women and kids behind. We don't need them, right? You can hear them all in there wailing and, crying, and I remember one of my guys, he's like, what? He goes, you know how you got the right guy? I said, how? He goes, when you hear the women crying, you got the right guy. When they're wailing like that, we got the right guy, And I was like, okay, well, we did have the right guy for sure. We already figured that out. But I now remember, right? So then down the road, we were doing an operation with the SEALs. So I'm gonna throw the SEALs under the bus again. And so same thing. We had to cross the bridge, and we had to go way north, probably 20 kilometers or so. And there was a target up north, maybe 1 kilometer at most to the east of the river again. And it was some pretty treacherous driving, because you're literally right on the ridge, on the edge of a road, looking straight down into this turbulent river. Trust me, if the truck goes over the edge, you're not going to survive it. You're going to drown. You're going to die. You're not swimming out of that, dude. And I know we recovered some SEALs that had drowned trying to swim across there, and it's just bad. And so I remember, the sergeant major from the SEALs, they're equivalent to a sergeant major, right? Master chief. And briefing the mission, we're going to support him, his team, right? And basically we're going to provide a blocking force or cordon force around the target, because it serves two purposes. One, to keep all the squirters, guys that are trying to get off the target, keeps them contained, right? We're the outer wall. But two, it also keeps any other assaulters from coming into the perimeter and interfering with the operation, right? So and that's where all the action happens too, is on the outside perimeter, right? You get runners and you get guys trying to come in and counter assault, so to speak. And so, the arrogance of this guy, man, and I'm talking about this SEAL, so they're briefing, we're going to go across the bridge, we're going to go north, but do that, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, roger that. Sergeant Major, understand that. But, I'm going to tell you from experience, as soon as you go across that bridge, the gig is up. They're going to tell the world that you're coming and you're not going to hit your target. You know, he's like, you know, what do you know? What do you know? Right. It's I'm just telling you, man. I said, there's a way to do this. And I've already proved the concept. You know, we're going to have to neutralize that bridge before we go across. And we need to set up a ruse, if you will, a distraction. Right. You know, and they kind of dismissed it and blew me off, you know, like I'm an idiot, you know. I was like, yeah, you know better, White. Yeah, I got more experience than that guy will ever have. But you know, it's that arrogance, man. Anyways, we finally, you know, we worked it out. You know, we did our part, secured the bridge. Like I said, we need to do that. We need to secure that bridge. And we did it. We roll those guys up and go, okay, now you're free to go north, you know, and so we were successful. And, you know, the guy had the arrogance at the end when we accomplished his mission. Go, see, no, we didn't get compromised. I was like, yes, stupid, because we secured the bridge, remember? So they didn't rat you out. Had we not done that, you know, you never succeeded in the mission, you know? And, but I remember it was a good tick that night. Tick is a troops in contact, right? When we did get up there, there was an engagement, and it just so happened that all the warlords from that area had come together, converged that day to this this compound, and they're basically going to have a briefing, you know, a strategy briefing. So they were all there to co-locate it, and they all decided they're going to spend the night, and they're all sleeping on cots, wide open, sound asleep. And you know, the element came in, snuck up on them, and one guy woke up, and he looked up and he saw the team. His AK was lit right there, and they're like, "Man, don't fucking do it." And he did. He went for it. And the other guys never woke up. Let's put it that way. They never woke up. They didn't even know what happened. Right? It was
silence pop them
all over, man. Yeah, it was all over, man. Just, you know, and but some other things happened. I want to talk about that here. It's a little
to interrupt to ask the totally uneducated, unmilitarily experienced retard question. Why does he go? Does he go for it out of stupidity, or is it like, if I don't go for this, that, you know, what kind of man am I not backing up my buddy sleeping? Is it just reflexive? You just like, I gotta fucking, what is it? Because I mean, you know, you see them coming in, like, or am I looking at it through the eyes of someone who's not in an adrenaline dump in the middle of a night?
No, you know what? I mean, you know, they're conditioned to believe that they're going to get killed, right, by us. And so it's either or. Either I make a move and try to stop them, or either way, I'm going to die, right? So that's kind of what it comes down to, you know. Fair enough. And so, you know, that's how it worked out. And so there were some other casualties, you know. So I say civilians, but what I mean, like kids and women got caught in the crossfire, you know, and a lot of weird shit happened that night. And that we don't want to talk about because there were some mistakes made. But ultimately, you know, that particular mission, I was pretty proud because, you know, the fact that I was able to catch Malik Moran, you know, like this impossible target, it just had to be smarter than the bad guys, you know. And it wasn't working just driving across the bridge, because it's you only have so many bridges you can cross along that Kunar River. And we had to, and they knew that. So they were putting observation on it, right? We had to make them believe we're here to do something different, you know, and it worked, you know. So, but you know, the Taliban, man, they were, you know, they learned their lessons pretty fast, and they kept adapting, you know. So they normally would do long range ambushes, you know, off from a distance. They might hit you from 200 or 300 yards out, right? Long range weapons, PKMs, Dishkas, AK-47s. They use hit and run tactics, kind of like they did with the Russians, the Mujahideen. And that works kind of good for a minute. But what we had that was in our advantage is close air support, right? Because you can't outrun that airplane. You can't outrun that helicopter, right? As soon as we know where you are, we can fix you. We can call right away. There's always close air support on station somewhere, pretty close, always. You get on the channel, you call it in, ECAS, emergency close air support. You give them the you know, the fire mission, tell them where to drop the ordnance, or you know, where the bad guys are. They usually didn't get away, not all of them, anyways, you know. And so they knew it. So they figured out the only way they can, you know, negate the close air support threat was get in tight. So now go to close ambushes, right? And they would get so close, they would literally run between the vehicles right? And now put all the vehicles in a crossfire scenario, right? And that made it much more difficult for us to engage them. And for sure,
can't call.
Close air support can't come and do anything for us because they're right amongst us, right?
Yeah.
And they were pretty clever. So as we started getting towards the end, at least during my time, circa 2010, 2011, they, they started to evolve, and they were much more effective that way, right? They got smart about it. And I remember listening to a Taliban commander one night. So we were driving north to south, and we drove through one area. It's about 7 kilometers long, and Taliban owned that stretch of road. Okay. On the west side was high ground, mountains. And then on the east side was the river. It was literally parallel on the road. So there's no way you're turning left and you're not going right. You can't go up the mountain vehicles. You can't go into the water. You got to go north or south. And they own this one strip about 7 kilometers long. And there was an S turn in that one stretch. And that was one of their ambush sites, because when you're in an S turn, you're moving slow anyways, but you're even more vulnerable when you're making these turns, right? And now you're exposing your flanks, at least on 6 sides when you make that, right? So 1, 2, 3 times 2, you could get hit from 6 different directions. And so there were burned out Hulks, vehicles everywhere, supply trucks. They always ambushed the supply trucks, right? Because that way we couldn't get food and water and shit like that. And of course, they would take all the stuff off of it. And there was like burned out shit all over the place. But I remember we ended up getting down to that S turn, and we had to stop in that point. And there's a reason for all that. I won't go into why we had to stop there, but we had an operation we had to do. But we know that 7 kilometer stretch was owned by the bad guys. So we stopped, and we sent another element forward, which was about 8 to 10 vehicles. I think all total, we had about 25 vehicles. So we left 15 stationed, all trucks facing south. The other 10 went south, continued for about another 5 kilometers. They linked up with another convoy, and they did an exchange. We put some of our guys were on leave, and basically we went to recover them, put them in our trucks, and drive them back home. That's the only way we could do it. That's the only way we could send guys home, is because they had to get through that 7 kilometers, and they're not going to get, if the Taliban knew they were working for us, they were going to kill them. There's no way they could do it, right? So we had to come up with a transport system, if you will, our own little Uber system, to get them home, drop them off and exchange good guys. So I remember, so we're sitting there, the element goes forward to make the link up, and the reason it was done there was, the other element was late, so we had to make all these adjustments in the middle of the night. Remember, we don't want to be out there during daylight. And at this point, it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. And we know in about 2.5 hours, the sun's going to come up, and it's going to be the witching hour. And we're barely going to make it in time, if we make it at all. And so as we're sitting there, we had the vehicles parked, waiting on the other guys, make contact. We're monitoring Taliban's frequency, right? Because they're using, they had their own radios over there, ICOM type radios, right? And so we had the same radios, and our interpreters would listen to it and scan the channels. And probably within a few minutes after we stopped, all of a sudden, here they come. They're on the radio. Taliban commander, they're starting to talk their strategy. They'd already counted the number of vehicles we had. In fact, they already targeted which vehicles they were going to hit, which systems they wanted, because they wanted to recover weapons systems and things like that. So they decided this is going to be the most vulnerable vehicle right here. Even though we were all kind of spread out about 50 meters, they already had it in their mind. We're going to go just for this one, right? And get what we can, and we're going to run. And so we're listening to the Taliban commander, and he's telling his guys, okay, guys, we're going to get really close. We're going to put the IEDs in. So they put 2 IEDs on that S turn I told you about, right? Because we got to move kind of slow to negotiate that. And we're on a ridge. And so it's going to slow down. And because the vehicles are slowing down, they're a better target for the IED. It's a lot easier to hit the clacker, right? And then the Taliban commander's like, listen, guys. Oh, yeah, the other thing we were waiting on. So we're listening to all this chatter, right? So we knew we're in trouble. It's like, we can't go south and we can't go north. They had us boxed in, right? And the other elements still got to get back. And so we call for close air support. We managed to get one H-6 attack helicopter, Apache, on station. And he comes in, he's flying around, and then he starts strafing the side of the road and stuff, and he runs out of ammo. And then also it's called bingo, right? He had a bingo, which means he was out of gas, and he had to fly south about probably about a 15-minute flight to get to another FOB to land and refuel. So we knew the turnaround time was going to be at least 30 to 45 minutes, right? And so by this time, the Taliban commander tells his guys, he goes, listen, he goes, more than likely that helicopter's refueling and rearming. He goes, so what we're going to do is once we initiate the ambush, get in close, get between the vehicles. That way the attack helicopter can't, he can't engage us, right? Moreover, they wanted to wait until the other element comes back and before they start the ambush. Well, when the other element came back, was coming back, they got hit. So they get ambushed, right? We can't help them because they're a couple of kilometers away from us. The AH-6 managed to come back and help support them and get them turned around. They came back to us. They had casualties on board, so we got to deal with the casualties on their trucks, and then turn all the vehicles around. And now we're like, okay, how are we going to get out of here? And so we decided that, okay, we're going to run north, but we're going to lead with the A6 attack helicopters, and he's going to basically strafe the side of the road, 30 Mike up and down the road, and knowing that they're going to be close because we already heard them on the radio. But we knew his effectiveness would be limited. And the Taliban commander told his guys that's exactly what's going to happen. He already knew what's going to happen. He already gamed it, right? It's like, damn, guys all over it now,
Mm-hmm.
And now they're getting smart at doing it close range. So I remember when it went down, it was, now you think about it, if you got 25 vehicles and they're spread out 50 meters each, 50 meters spread, do the math on that.
500.
We're
that, what, 1,200 meters?
At least
you're a kilometer long, kilometer and change,
right? So we're pretty spread out, and we're going to be moving at about a blistering 3 to 5 miles an hour because the roads are so bad, and so we're going to be a very slow moving target, man. We're they're going to be hammering us. Now every truck was loaded with guns. It had 3 or 4 dudes in it, usually a couple guys in the back on heavy weapons, dishkas, 40 Mike grenade launchers, and so we had a lot of guns, and we knew what kind of problem we're going to have. One, we're going to get it with an IAD, and if it's going to be one of the first vehicles, which is what they were planning on doing, what's going to happen there? The road's going to be blocked and jammed, right? And now we've got to clear the vehicle. We've got to get the bodies off of it, and right, and recover all the shit. And while we're doing that, we're still getting hit, right? And so, and we're getting close to the witching hour. The lights is starting to get light, So we decided, okay, this was the plan. Age comes in first, strafes the road. That's going to be the signal to start, right? And then we're going to go one by one, like the March of the Penguins, right? First one takes off. All guns running on all weapons, on all vehicles. Shoot in all directions except up and down the line, left and right and to the front, right? Every gun's running, and the instructions were shoot anything where a man could hide behind. Every tree stump, every rock, every berm. If you think somebody could hide behind it, just shoot it up. Just put rounds on everything, and just keep a steady flow of bullets. And so, boom, here we go. First vehicle goes, and we're wearing night vision goggles. I'm watching this go down, and guns are blazing. The second vehicle, guns are blazing. Third vehicle, guns are blazing. Right? It was amazing, right? The gunfire, man. Holy shit! And as I'm in the 15th truck, and I had the command vehicle. I had the one with all the antennas on it saying, shoot here, kill this,
Mm-hmm.
me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm driving, man. And I'm driving the damn thing. And so I had plenty of time.
The one you mentioned in American Badass?
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
I know where it's going. Yeah, keep going.
So I had plenty of time to think about this thing, because it's taking a while for all the vehicles to get moving. We're going one by one, one, okay, two, and I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. Normally, you get into an ambush, you try to drive out of it as fast as you can, fight out of it. But I said, this is the first time I've actually deliberately drove into an ambush to get out of the ambush because we were trapped, And so, and I thought, man, if we make it out of this, we're gonna be lucky, And so we actually made it out, is what we did, and they didn't destroy. But they pretty severely damaged at least 6 vehicles. I mean, blew them up pretty good, shot them up pretty good, but we got them out of there. We did get guys get shot, and Kevlar does work. We had dudes get hit in the plate in front and the back and survive the hits coming out. So we managed to pull through all that and get out, and it was turning daylight, so we made a full recovery, got back, and I thought about it. I was like, and I remember when I was sitting in the truck waiting for my turn to start driving, it's like, I was thinking, I might not make it out of this one. And I thought, I don't want to be distracted. When I go, I want to go with a clear mind. And so I imagined my entire family, all my kids' faces, one by one. I saw all my kids' faces, my wife's face, everybody's face. I just imagine it. I want to remember it one more time.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Now I got that out of the way. Stop thinking about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Made your peace. Now focus on, the mission. And man, when I started driving, the road was so bad that I broke out. I busted the right front strut in the vehicle, and I had these Kevlar tires, and they were rubbing inside the wheel well, and the friction caught the tire on fire. Jeez. And so my tire is burning. It's a rolling, burning tire, man. And I'm bumping down the road. I got my gun in my hand. And we're shooting out the windows and shit. So I literally rolled out all the way through with a burning vehicle. And I'm the only one whose truck's on fire too, because of the shock. The strut went out on it. And friction caused the tire to burn. But I told myself that night, when I had that moment, of clarity, I said, man, if I survive this one, this is the last one. I'm not doing this no more. I was 47, and I told myself, if I get through this, then this is the last one. I hang the guns up, and I'm going to go back to the world and enjoy, the rest of my life, and no more of this stuff. I enjoyed what I do, but I felt like I'm really pushing the envelope. I mean,
I think you said in the book, you're like, I've gotten lucky so many times. You're like, at some point, I'm like tempting fate.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I felt about it. I was like, man, that's really, I'm really pushing it now,
Yeah.
9 years in and out of country, fuck, man, I went over there so many times that, it was almost like people were almost recognizing me on the street. I mean, at one point they did. I was in a bus coming from the airport, a armored bus to transport me from the airport to the embassy. And I just come in country, and I remember stopped like at an intersection, and there's a guy on the intersection on the sidewalk, and he looks over and he starts waving at me. And I'm looking at the guy, and go, what the hell? It's the janitor from one of the bases I'm working at. He recognized me in the bus. He's waving at me like, hey, Mr. Dale. I go, no. I said, no, I know I've been coming here too much. When they start recognizing me on the street. And I've actually sat in interrogations. We rolled guys up, and the guy you can't use the word prisoner, right? That's politically incorrect, So we had to call them pucks, personnel under control, right? I mean, how lame are we, man?
It's so gay.
It is, man. You can thank for that shit, John McCain. Man, that dude got more fucking people killed because of that crap than anything else, man. Then can't interrogate, personnel in control. Interrogations don't work. I'm not here to tell you right now, interrogations work. And there are a lot of Americans alive because when you put some pressure on people and they start spilling their guts, they start telling you where the IEDs are, you save lives, man. And I saw it happen more than once. This is all PC crap, man. It's all it was, political correctness, right? But I've had guys that were pucks, right? And I'm in a room with them, and like, hey, I know you arrested me on that other target a couple of years ago over there. I'm like, you son of a bitch, how'd you get out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, you know what? This is number 2. I said, there won't be a number 3.
Yeah.
I said, don't ever let that happen
I'm
again.
gonna kill you.
And it was crazy, man. It was a catch and release program, the whole time, especially towards the end. When Obama came on office, the whole thing is just turned into a circus. And I decided that around 2011, I said, I've had enough, man. I'm done. I'm going to get out of here because I'm not dying for nothing. And there were so many horror stories I could share with you, man. And the biggest horror story we all watched go down in Kabul a couple of years ago, right? The fall of Kabul. The Taliban took over. That's the tragedy of it all. And I looked at it and I saw that. I was like, you know what? I made the right choice. I made the right choice because I could have been killed, since then. And for what? All for naught. All for nothing. Don't tell me it was for something. We already killed UBL. Why were we still there? And the way we were doing it, we could have had that war over in a couple months. But they drug it out because, and then all the rules started coming in, You can't use explosive. You have to use a soft knock. That means you got to, during the day, like special forces teams, they couldn't come in at night, right? They couldn't come in dynamic. They literally had to walk up. It's called a soft knock for a reason. Hello, Mr. Taliban. We're here to arrest you. Would you please come out, sir? And like, no, not no, but hell no. And then you go, oh, well, now what do we do, guys? You know, we asked them to come out. You don't want to come out. Yeah. And you think they didn't know that? Of course they knew that. You know, this is the kind of weird shit we started doing. Why? Because who were we appeasing? Who were we appeasing? Well, besides the Taliban, we're appeasing the American people, because American people, oh my God, what do you mean you're blowing up their doors and going in and shooting bad guys in front of their family? Yeah, the same ones that are killing your sons on the battlefield, you know? Oh, yeah, I'm getting a little worked up, right? Because I saw it, man, you know, and it's a tragedy, man, what happened, all of that happened at the end of the day, you know? Look, man, the people in charge, they're murderers by proxy. I'm just going to say it out loud. They're murderers by proxy. What they allowed to happen is murder. 13 Americans are dead, none on top of all the other ones. For what? For incompetence. I was just putting incompetent, and it was deliberate incompetence is what it was. Complete negligence, you know. And here we are. It's sad, but that's where we're at, you know, and I don't see it getting any better or any different, man. We better be careful. We better look out, man. We better hope we don't go to war. That's what everybody's saying is going to happen. People of any prominence out there to have some, you know, a couple live brain cells in their head still, they're all saying within a year, I even heard Tucker Carlson say, you know, within a year, we'll be fighting the Russians. I think we're also going to be fighting the Chinese. And we're going to have, we're going to be in for a rude awakening. Real rude awakening, you know. I'm sitting here in Indonesia going, man, what am I going to do? Because pretty sure the Chinese are going to come and take Indonesia too. They're going to get they already got footholds everywhere, and it's great, you know, great staging. In fact, the only reason Australia is not speaking Japanese is because the Battle of Midway. Otherwise, look, the Japanese, that little country owned everything here, and they were about to go into Australia, and they would have taken it. You know, the Australians would be speaking Japanese right now if it wasn't for the Battle of Midway. That was a turning point in the war. So this is a very strategic area. You know, and we know that, you know, it's been in the news more than once where, you know, the Indonesians are recovering drone submarines from the Chinese. They're using drone submarines to map the water, the underwater, you know, waterways. Indonesia has, it's an archipelago. It has at least 17,000 islands. 17,000. That's what I said. That's correct. Up to 25,000 if you count some of the smaller ones, right? And it's big. It's a lot of land, and it's not all contiguous. It's not all joined together. Okay. And so what are they doing? They're mapping the waterways to see, okay, if we have to bring in ships and submarines, you know, they've already figured it out. Okay. We know how to come underwater and do all that stuff, right? They're mapping it out. They're working it. You know, we might be doing it too, for all I know. I know that American submarines haven't washed up on the beaches yet, but I've heard of at least 3 have washed up on the beaches, right? You know, Chinese crap, you know, it petered out, right? So, you know, but they're doing it. You know, they're doing the Philippines. What are they doing? They're making islands. You know, they're literally scraping the sand from the bottom of the ocean away from Taiwan, killing the fishing reefs and stuff like that, right? And they're taking the sand away and they're building islands out of it. And also they're killing the reefs, so it makes fishing harder for the Taiwanese, right? They're literally going to try to starve them out. You know, you make them capitulate because, hey, we can't fish in the water no more. And you're eroding the ocean floor around the island, you know. You know, anybody's paying attention, and most people are not, because they don't care, because they're just worried about themselves, going to job, work, whatever, should be paying attention. You better be making preparations. Things are going to get really ugly. If you think there's going to be a 2024 election, good luck with that. That ain't happening. It ain't going to happen. Do you really think there's going to be I don't think so. There's no way. There's no way they're going to let Trump win. No way. If they have to assassinate him, they're going to make sure he does not win. And I don't think it's going to go there, man. I don't think we're going to see the election. I also think, you know, I think you and I have talked about the blue bean operation, right? Alien thing. There's going to be another distractor. They're trying another pandemic, but I don't think American people are going to fall for this one. I don't think it's going to happen this time. There's going to be some idiots. They're already out there doing it. They're already taking their next booster shot for the next virus, which, by the way, I don't think has ever been tested on the vaccine, but give me a
Of
vaccine,
course
you
not.
know. And so what's his name? The shock jock. What's his bucket? With the long hair, freaking
Oh,
weirdo.
Stern.
Stern, right? The guy's bragging on the news today about how he went and got his shot, his next vaccine booster, you know, and everybody's an idiot if you don't get it, you know. And why do I get it? Because I'm scared. Man, you freaking punk. You know, this
You
guy,
really
you know,
do die the hero or live to become the enemy. That guy wasn't, I mean, he was before my time. I was young,
yeah,
but wasn't he the original, like, fuck you, like, fuck
yeah,
the FEC or FCC? Like, I'm gonna say he was like the original, like, Eminem almost. Like, he was before Opie
yeah,
and Anthony. He was all about, like, motherfuck
yeah,
you, like, fucking
yeah,
fucking porn stars getting fucked on his show.
yeah.
And
He's a
now he's like Joe Rogan's and misinformation.
And he actually admits to being woke. You know what he is a dirtbag. That guy's a
Yeah.
dirtbag. He's a sorry dirtbag, you know.
Yeah.
But this is where we're at now, right? So something's going to happen. I don't think the election is going to happen. Personally, I don't think it's going to happen. There's other people saying it too. There's going to be another distractor, whether it's the blue bean with the aliens, or whether it's going to be they're going to try to push the COVID thing again, or they're going to try to use both of them together at the same time. But they're going to get to a point where, like, hey, don't come out because the aliens are going to kill you. Vote from a text message. You know, they're gonna come up with something,
Yeah.
man.
And then
You know,
it's gonna be so comically obvious too.
there's a reason they keep leaking out these reports from the
Yeah.
government. Yeah, there's aliens, right? They're priming us, right?
Oh
They're getting
yeah.
us right. And then the next COVID, right? They're setting us up for again,
Yeah.
distance of voting, is what it's coming down to. And dude, and they're not even trying to hide it. It's so obvious, I mean, even Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder can see what the hell's going on. Honestly,
Yeah. No, it's
yeah, we're gonna be in for a rude awakening, man. I read again today where the whole de-dollarization thing's happening. Everybody wants to devalue the dollar. I don't know where that's gonna go. Maybe it won't go anywhere, or maybe
I think that's why we're going to war.
well, you're right. That's going to be one of the reasons. But the whole world hates us, man. Yeah, if Americans out there think that people look at America and go, yeah, it's the greatest country where we support you. Bullshit, man. I live in it. I'm living it here. They're laughing at us. They're going, what is going on in your country? What is going on with changing kids' genders and all the crap that you guys are doing over there? Really, I'm hearing this, man, not just here, but in the Philippines, everywhere I travel in this part of the world. They're not looking at, and I'm wondering why are all these illegal aliens? And I said illegal aliens because that's exactly what they are coming across the border. You guys might want to go back home because you're probably going to be better off there than in America. The world's going to change here very soon. It's going to change very soon, and we were not going to recognize it unless by the grace of God, man. We get whether it's Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis, we get somebody in there that still believes in really believes in America and really believes in righteousness and really believes in taking care of the Americans and not themselves. We're going to be in a world of doo-doo, man. I feel it. I really believe that. And so get ready, man. Hold on to your hat, buckle up, put up the cigarette. It's going to be a rough, bumpy ride.
Always a positive ending on these shows with me and Dale. Always a positive.
Well, this was a quick one, man. This was a quickie.
Yeah.
I've been talking all night, so I'm just
actually,
now.
actually, we gotta wrap it up right now. I have an online doctor's appointment. Guys, please go in the description. Please go follow Dale on Instagram. Please go grab his book. Please go to the fitness coaching. And I know that there's a lot more coming from Dale coming up, as you were just telling me before the show. But for right now, Dale, my brother, we got to wrap this one up because unlike the podcast where I can just walk in late whenever I want, I am seeing a doctor in less than 30 seconds who probably wouldn't be too happy if I just it's 1 o'clock. Yeah, I gotta go. All right, Dale.
All right.
Till next